All right. Thank you for having me. Let's have some fun for some engineering definition of fun, which is sharing stories about failures, right? So that's what we do here. The subtitle doesn't matter, as you can see. I'm really glad to be here. It's just my second year, so I didn't win anything. I wasn't there the first year. But we can tell that we were here for the first TalusCon, when it's going to be 10,000 people. You can say I was there in London the very first day. I am Alessandro. I'm very glad to be here. So I live in Amsterdam with some of my friends. They are here as well. So I brought some friends to clap in case you don't you don't like me. I'm a CNCF ambassador. Because I organized the Dutch Kubernetes meetup together with Matteo and other people. I call myself the Cloud Pirates because I'm a freelancer. I'm a freelancer like many others. We are the pilots, we are the freelancers of the cloud, while the pilots were the freelancers of the sea, right? So that's why I call myself the Cloud Pilots. Used to work at Microsoft solo, and I'm working on a big thing, KubeSpaces.io, which if you allow me, I'll just explain to you. I'm very active in the CNCF community, especially the tag environmental sustainability. If you want to talk about how to make your software greener, I'll be very happy. And for the first time now, the cat is out of the bag. I'm going to talk about what is KubeSpaces. Everybody's asking me. So for now, I'm going to tell, 50 people in a room. So Heroku, everybody loves Heroku, right? But it's expensive. It's being bought by Salesforce, the Euro Corporation. So I sell, or we pitch, KubeSpaces as Heroku with the Kubernetes API. So imagine you could talk to Heroku. You can use the same path with Kubernetes API, which in fact is... So KubeSpaces is a bunch of clusters in different regions and clouds with some magic, not so much. That's the Gateway API icon, if you don't know yet. So they have their own icon now. It's very subtle. They got this arrow. So that's Gateway API, so based on Envoy Gateway. So we maintain infrastructure, so you don't need to care about security, upgrades, and so on. And then you can get your tenant, right? So, and that's based, of course, on vCluster. I noticed on the t-shirt. So why we do that? Because then you don't need to care. Let's be honest, nobody cares about your cluster, VPC, storage. Everybody cares about the namespace. So what we all want to offer is a namespace as a service. And of course, nicely exposed to URL from the cloud that we manage. Thank you for listening to the pitch, because it's the first time I do it in public. But welcome to the talk. Welcome to Cloud Native, right? So this is where things fail in spectacular ways, right? So the more stuff we put in clusters, the more things can go wrong, right? And sometimes they go wrong really badly. I would like, because this is interactive, so I'm going to give it to whoever wants to start talking. But first, I invented, I don't know, maybe I'm not the first one, but I invented, so who knows what Ikigai is? Ikigai is a Japanese word that means the perfect combination or intersection of what you love to do, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what people will gladly pay you for, right? So that's the Ikigai, and if you find it, I found mine in Cloud Native and community, and this is the DevOps Ikigai, right? So the perfect union of processes, tools, and people. Everybody's happy. It's kumbaya every day. And of course, it's not just operational excellence. It's also going to the pub at 5 p.m. without pagers. They tend to explode lately. So be careful. Sorry for the joke. But it's where things go well together and we all happily ever after. So most of the stories I got, of course, this is a interesting repository. It's been moved to Codeberg recently, but it's still there. And actually, people are not contributing that much. It's strange. It seems to be that people are very willing to share failure stories until 2020 or something, and then something happens. Probably this Kubernetes thing became so professionalized, so important to enterprises, maybe people don't want to share anymore, right? But I'll be happy to come back. So I would like you, I'm sharing some of mine, and I would like you as well, if you can stand up, if you have a story to share about this topic. So the very first one, API latency. So when I was at Microsoft, we had AKS clusters failing over because people were spinning up nodes like there is no tomorrow. So there is a limit to that kind of amount of nodes you can run, 5,000 in the best cases. But people don't know that, and then they just crash the API latency of the hosted control plane in Azure. And how they fix that, they offer you a premium, so you can pay so you don't get this problem. So that's how corporation and big cloud providers fix the problem. Anybody has a story about API latency? Yes, there. You can shout. Maybe I'll repeat it. Sorry, guys, I make you work for the talk.
That's all right. Yeah, so we're developing a new application. So we're moving from a monolithic API to a RESTful API, which should have been GraphQL. But anyway, we were just about to release the application. They said it was MVP and everything. And it was a little bit slow. So I went through the process of checking the API latency. So I did a whole lot of queries in Postman and looked at the browser. And I found that some of our APIs getting basic information was taking 1.5, 2 seconds, 2.5 seconds. And so I sent this off to the developers. And then 2 weeks later, the CEO got fired and they canned the entire project. And so we're just now restarting it. But yeah, it was basically part of the issue with the application was total, because it was doing so many processes on the back end. It was going to an SQL database, but it was doing all this stuff that was slow. There's bottlenecks everywhere.
Thank you for sharing. That's one way to fix problem, fire the CEO. That's always, I'm a CEO now, don't take my advice. Let's fail. This is also bugging me for so long. And this rule, when things time out after 5 seconds, it must be DNS, right? So I don't know if you ever noticed that. Anyone wants to share DNS failures? And this was before when we had kubedns. It's always DNS, of course, but we need it, right? So it's like water. So CNI fail. This is the plumbing. Without CNI, you don't go anywhere. I have a story to share. So Istio, I love it, of course, but it pretends to install its own CNI, which, of course, having 2 CNI is a tricky thing. So, of course, the Istio CNI doesn't like Cilium CNI, and then they were just not talking to each other, and then the cluster used to fail. But this is also easy to spot because the cluster won't even come up, right? So when you install Istio, bam, it's gone. It's not even, and usually it's the first thing you install, so there's not, usually you don't go into production failure when you have this kind of problems. Anyone? CNI? Everybody loves it? Or we can skip it. It's a long talk anyway. Ingress Service Mesh. This is adding more layers to your data path. So you got more stuff to check when things fail. And this is painful. And is one of the biggest blocker for adoption of Service Mesh. Getting all these sidecars, okay, now it's better. There is no sidecar or should not be there, but it's still a lot of more moving parts. Anybody with a Service Mesh ingress story to share? Be quick or be gone. Out of memory kills. Who has experienced that? Yes. Or are you talking about it? So they should launch it in space.
Yeah, many kills, particularly on Prometheus. At one point we were running, I think, the largest Prometheus installs on the planet. And we just couldn't we couldn't get bigger instances from AWS, which is really fun trying to work out whether you have what's going wrong when your networking stack, your monitoring stack doesn't work because it's out of memory.
Did you add CPU limits and memory limits?
Yes. So in the end, we had to deploy, I think, more or less like a Prometheus per app stack rather than try and do one big one.
So I think accepted, I don't know, I wouldn't, still open question. Should you use CPU limits and memory limits on pods? Some people argue no, it depends, okay. But of course, a limit will make your OMN kill more evident, right? So is hitting the ceiling and is gonna die. While if you don't, then you get this creepy silent OM kill that you don't know why, and that's thing. Also, again, Service Mesh, when you get this constant HTTP retries and you don't know why or who is doing that, and that's one thing that Service Mesh can do. This is pretty fringe, I think. Nobody had ever had to deal with HTTP retries, some API being hit so much that they just fall over and there's no stopping. Okay, doesn't need to be, and this is common, right? So who had to upgrade clusters lately? Most people. So any bad story about upgrades? And no rollbacks, of course, because this is by design. Kubernetes community never really care about writing a script to roll back any cluster upgrades. So even in Microsoft, we had customers, they were so afraid of upgrading a cluster, they just spin up more clusters and just move over the application. That's one way to fix it. Backups, taking down the cluster, of course, you don't know when. Sometimes backups are so big, they're even bigger than the application, right? So that they even generate more traffic, more storage than the actual application. And so you have to rethink your backup strategy. This happened to me. I did deleted some important production databases. Who did that? Of course, it's a safe space, of course, because we are all anonymous except me. So it happens. So it happened to me. Worst 8 hours of my life, or I got worse, of course, but it was not fun to see S3 Glacier backups coming back from Amazon to be restored, because of course we didn't think about it. They were free and cheap, or they were cheaper, so we choose Glacier. Bad idea. GitOps shitstorms. You change you have one space extra, one little new line that is even invisible on VS Code, and everything fails. And of course, this is failure of testing. So you never do this in production, but we all do, of course, and that's happened. So you want to share something, Michael? Yeah, sure. What? Is there any other?
Argo CD doesn't check if your API spec is correct or not, if you use Customize. I'm now working at the Dutch government, and we are implementing Customize with Argo CD in GitOps fashion. I've been searching for a strange reconciliation loop with Argo CD. It kept saying out of sync, synced, out of sync, synced.
You have to ignore the resource that does that. Cert manager had that.
It took me 2 days or something. Yeah.
It's harmless because it just stops syncing.
Yeah, although it kept syncing because the YAML spec was wrong. But it didn't say it was wrong. It just kept on syncing.
I'm glad to know. I'm glad to know my taxpayer money are well spent. And thank you. So of course, CPU limits. We talk about this. We touched this before. So it will, no question, it will bring you throttling. And throttling is not great, right? So there are stories out there, or KubeCon share, latency immediately improve when you just remove CPU limits. I'm not saying you should do it, but you should try to do it. So of course, you only live once, so you just try stuff. This is Thank you, Matteo, for giving this example. This is somebody who broke Kubernetes.io website. I didn't told him I was gonna share this. So apparently Ugo is behind Kubernetes.io. I could have figured it out, but when you upgrade, do test before. Do they have a dev.kubespace.io? Yes.
We basically test the preview environment, but we don't test the container that we produce, which is the one that gets deployed. So it's amazing.
So this is Kubernetes community teaching everybody how to do stuff, right?
It was on a Friday, by the way.
Oh, Friday.
Just to let you know. It was on a Friday night.
Yeah, don't do that.
They fixed it on Monday. It's fine.
Because also you need to approve from God.
If you look at the thread, it's like probably 16 people interceding. See the reviewers like that.
But you're still around, and is release lead for 133?
Yeah, for comms 132.
132.
Yeah.
Round of applause, because
Thanks.
It's a good thing. So you can fail but still be around. I don't know for how long, but so Naimius. Okay, so time to revive K8s.af. It's where people share stories. I think we might fork it. Everybody forks stuff nowadays, right? So we can just fork it and make our own. So what can you do to mitigate, right? So to have more fun, and you can go to have a beer at 5 p.m. Document architecture. So if more people know what's going on and where are things, you reduce the of possible problems. Of course, this is nobody likes it, but it's necessary. You gotta do it. Improve processes, right? So when something is, I get this. I was at Tom Limoncelli. Tom Limoncelli wrote an amazing book on system administration, and he said this in a talk. When something is hard, that's the exactly procedure that you should do more often, because you're gonna fail. You're gonna collect 20 backlog items the first time, and then it's gonna be 5, and then maybe 2. So when something is hard, you should really do it more often. So this is how you improve process, not just by doing the easy stuff, by doing the hard things, right? So that's for life as well. Reward the right behavior, right? Matteo fails, we give him the chair of release. But in general, give prize if you're a CEO, okay, maybe it's my time to step up, to give the right praise, because that generates culture. Culture is not something you just impose or magically appears out of nowhere. It's something you actually create by these little actions, like giving praise and reward and maybe bonuses to people that take responsibility, take ownership, and fix the things that are broken. And make tools simpler and safer. Backup scripts, upgrade scripts. We'll all love Bash, and I think I love Bash. I will write Kubernetes in Bash if I could, but the point is to make it safer, ident, and they can fail in a gracious way and with more information. So now, and from Justin talk I got it today, fixing things is a team sport. You are not alone. There's a team behind you. There's a people that want you to succeed. So it's not like making a movie with thousands of people, but it's a team sport. Like fixing problems is something you do together. Some ideas I got while I was researching this talk: have separate channels. This really struck me. And this is a talk from Zalando. And interestingly, they also made a mistake because they just test things in dev and then they move to alpha. That is not the right way to do it. The right way to do it is to create a new dev cluster, upgrade it to alpha, and then test your changes. Otherwise, you just testing in the dev cluster, which is fresh, new. You are not really testing over something that's been upgraded, and then the other channels are just upgraded from the previous one. So always think that a fresh cluster is not exactly the best place to test new things, because it's fresh, right? So it's never been touched, but that's never the case in production and pre-production. Do this. This is gonna be also what we do in KubeSpaces. You don't want people to crash your compute nodes or your API server. Put an hard limit to pods. So don't let people just, unless you are OpenAI and you are training ChatGPT, just you can put this to 7,500. That's also a number. But make sure that think of very hard what people can do with your platform and try to prevent that. Of course, it's never perfect, but you can do things like this. And catch things early, right? So a spark can become a flame can become a fire, and soon enough before your pager, So this is important. So tools, right? So finally, we are engineers, we all love tools. We got 4 years. So this K9s, noob. Don't use it. Honestly, I don't like it. I used to compile kernel with ncurses on Slackware 0.9. So when I see this is what is like a 1999 or something, we need better tools, right? So delete tools. Falco for security scanning is the best there is. Inspector Gadget, who knows it? It's cool. It's also a BPF. If you use Cilium, can see everything going on. It's magic. You got like a complete, it's like your class is transparent. You can see everything going on. Istio, I love it. Some AI, why not? It's there, of course. And my favorite Crew plugins. If you don't use these, really, this is a hardcore Kubernetes administrator thing. Poddive, node admin, so that lets you get into a node. Deprecations, when you want to upgrade, you can see what's going on. And some other Crew plugins. It's really, this is something I installed first thing when I have a new machine. And you try to do this. Who knows what these are? No one? SpaceX Raptor engine. So try to make things simpler. So the best thing, the thing that cannot break is the thing that is not even there. If you reduce your attack surface because you reduce the moving parts, then you get to this beautiful, unfortunately made by a psychopath, but beautiful engine. And of course, always try to turn it on and off again. And the most important lesson is, so there is no human mistake. It's always processes. This is a great blog, by the way. So human error is never the root cause. Never blame humans. It's always the condition we put those humans in that generates the mistake. So another great blog, actually a presentation from K8 from, I remember. These are not features, not bugs, so trust them, not with production, but trust them they can learn. So reward mentorship, we say that's a clear expectation and make time for engineers to learn. That's where things are happening. And finally, that's my personal philosophy. I'm a humble student of Stoicism. So be a Stoic. Who knows what Stoicism is? 3,000 years old philosophy. If you keep your mind focused and calm, there is no misfortune that can take you down, right? And then make your mind like a fortress. Everything that happens, keep calm, go on, use Istio, and believe in yourself. So failure is a fact of life. There's nothing you can do to avoid, but you can make this is what we say in Latin, and the Latin speaker here, errare humanum est, perseverare autem diabolicum. Making a mistake is human, but insisting on the same mistakes, that's diabolicus, right? So that's for the Latin lovers here. Be gentle to yourself and to your colleagues. Make your mind a fortress that cannot be attacked, not even by state actors, and try to have fun. And that's what we are here for. And we have 30 seconds. And check KubeSpaces because we are building this together. So the slides are there. We'll see you in Amsterdam. If you ever come to Amsterdam, let us know because we might invite you to one of the meetups. You can even speak at the meetup. And of course, come build with us what I'm trying to build. So, any questions? 17 seconds left.
Questions?
I've never been in a rodeo. I've seen one. All right. If no more, I'm accepting questions, of course. But if nobody has one, yesterday somebody said, I'm going to ask myself a question, but I don't have a question myself, so they're really bad. All right. Thank you anyway.
Thank you.